hour is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? A black man is suing the city of Miami and 5 police officers for misconduct. Samuel Scott Jr. was visiting his aunt when his vehicle disappeared. He reported it to authorities. Officers Jonathan Guzman, Michael Bloom, Brandon Williams, Miguel Hernandez, and Randy Carriel arrived on the scene, and this happened.
All right, listen. I'm gonna read you your rights real quick. All right?
I'm telling you guys, I can confirm where I was, and I can even confirm my activities. I recently logged off of the VPN at my job.
Okay. At what time?
Roughly before I came over here, before I called you guys.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, you guys got the wrong guy.
Okay. The description of the guy that took off from your car is just like yours.
But that's half of Miami, bald-headed with a beard. Even if he had dreads, it's dreads with a beard. Okay. But then it's not fair. I mean, like I said, my kids, I called because my car got stolen. My kids are over there. They don't even know what's going on.
So what time was your car stolen?
I told you, probably around about 5. I didn't pay attention to the time. I really just jumped out of the car to go see. That's it. If you want, like I said, we can go. Like, I had my kids and stuff like that, dropped them off, came over to say hi, and I went. I mean, I don't know what happened. I don't. I mean, like I said, I know the people that stay across there, over here, all over the place. I don't know what happened. My car somebody jumped in, drove off. And I'm sorry, but I'm telling you, I didn't do it. I mean, literally, I mean, why would I call the police? I mean, I called because my car is stolen. I mean, how me and my kids are going to get home? My pillow, my work ID, my work stuff, all of that stuff is in there. Why would I? That's why I'm like, why am I in handcuffs? If I'm calling them and I'm...
Just give me a second, okay? All right. I'm gonna open the window so you're behind there.
I mean, also, I don't really know, or look at my record, I've never been arrested. Hell, one good friend of mine is, like, City of Miami, Dennis Jackson. He used to be my pastor. My aunt's a retired City of Miami police officer.
You never been arrested before?
No.
Sure about that?
Yeah. Never been arrested. Ex-military, never been arrested.
Okay. Thalden Pierre is the attorney for Samuel Scott. He joins us right now. I'm real confused.
Yeah.
The dude whose car was stolen calls the cops to report his car was stolen, and they put him in handcuffs. Why?
Sometimes real life is stranger than fiction. In this situation, it seems like there was an ambitious cop who essentially just wanted to pin the crime on someone. The only person that they had was a generic individual in Miami, and in this particular neighborhood, which is predominantly black, could have been anyone. As the complaint and the lawsuit states, essentially, they had to dig under his shirt to figure out if he even matched the person that they initially identified who was running away from the...
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. There's no car on the scene, right?
Yep.
So the person who called him, he's in handcuffs. So what logic would the person who stole the car be the same one to call the cops? Like, why was he put in handcuffs in the first place?
And again, if we're going to go through logic, there is none. I mean, that's the whole gist of the lawsuit, is the fact that Mr. Scott called for assistance, but ended up becoming the victim. I mean, becoming the perpetrator when he was in fact the victim. So, Mr. Martin, I wish I could explain what makes someone arrest the person who actually reports his vehicle stolen, but I can't.
Okay, so this is one of the things that sort of perplexes me that happens with these cops all the time. They come on a scene, they see a black person, and they immediately slap cuffs on them to sort of detain them, and then it's like, well, we'll figure everything out later.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this situation, they kind of did more than just figure it out. They actually made stuff up along the way. And even though it was inconsistent with reality, but that was the whole fantasy. I mean, they not only said that he stole his own car, they said he was carrying he was basically in possession of a gun that was 2 miles away. They said he had possession of marijuana, which till this day, we still don't know where that came from. That's a fantasy in itself. So oftentimes when I do these cases, the police officers attempt to write down what has just recently occurred. And then they stick through it. I mean, they stick to the arrest affidavit up until the lawsuit. And even though it doesn't make any sense, and in this case, it didn't make sense at the beginning, but they usually have an ability to kind of like make it make sense. But in this situation, as you've eloquently pointed out, you can't make this make sense.
Okay, hold
no
on.
one calls.
Okay, now I'm real. So hold up.
Yeah.
Car gets stolen, and they say a gun 2 miles away was used. Now they found a gun, but there's still no car, right?
They found the gun in the car that was stolen 2 miles away.
Okay, hold up. So his car was stolen.
Yeah.
They find a gun in the stolen car, and they say that was your gun.
Exactly.
Not realizing he reported it stolen.
He reported his vehicle stolen. No, they knew he reported it stolen. One of the things that they had Mr. Scott do was write an arrest. I mean, I forgot what it's called. It's a witness affidavit form or a statement basically saying, I'm reporting my vehicle stolen. So they knew he did that at the inception. But for whatever reason, that's what was the basis for the false reporting of a crime, because they were saying, of course not. Your car wasn't stolen. You stole the vehicle.
Matt, this is the kind of stuff that absolutely pisses black people off.
Too often, Roland, the police start with the presumption of guilt when it comes to a black man, particularly a big black man. Big black men do not get the presumption of innocence. And that's the only reason this would make any sense, because it is wholly illogical that you would call the police and report your vehicle stolen, and then the police make contact with you and they take you into custody for the theft of your vehicle. It makes no sense. But thankfully for Mr. Scott, he's got an attorney as skilled as Mr. Pierre. He and I are in a group called the Civil Rights Collective, and he's a fantastic attorney. So I'm sure this will turn out the way it should. But it's a travesty that we have to even have this conversation, because it makes no sense whatsoever.
Lee, and then people wonder why black folks are up in arms with these damn cops.
Yeah, it's, common sense isn't so common all the time, right? The man called the police because his car was stolen, and you arrest him and impede on his civil rights for doing the thing he called them about. I mean, it's just, it makes you laugh, but it's sad at the same time. And here's the other thing. In the article, it didn't really state that in what you just showed, but it's my understanding that the officer turned off his body cam more than once as a part of all this. Y'all, that's troubling. Like that is really issues. I know many people get excited when they see that police officers have body cams because you feel like you can, it'll keep them in check, and then you can know what happens in instances like these. But here's some things that we got to be concerned about, y'all. In many of these jurisdictions that have body cameras, the officers can manually turn them off and on. That ain't good. The officers should not be able to turn the body camera off and on. They need to have the technology, and I know I'm getting a little technical, but they need to have the technology in any jurisdiction that has these body cameras where when they get out their car, it turns on. And when they get back in their car off the scene, it turns off. You shouldn't have the ability to turn off your body camera, because we saw what happened in other jurisdictions where things have gone haywire and you don't see that. So my brother representing this, man, keep the fight up, man. Just, because they need to begin to right some wrongs, not just in this case. I pray that, that he gets what is due for him, but also that y'all continue and see what y'all can do to fix some of these laws that are just bad, that impede on people's civil rights.
Sheer madness. Well, certainly keep us updated on what happens in this case, and I hope your client gets as much money as he can.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I do think Mr. Scott appreciates it as well.
All right, thank you so very much. All right then, folks, that's just, y'all, I got no words. I just, and then people are like, oh, why y'all so upset? Hello, and now they do this. We get caught in the criminal justice system. Got to hire a cop. Got to hire a lawyer. Got to go through all this sort of stuff. The stress and the drama, all those different things that go along with that. That's what black people have to deal with in a system. When they see someone black, they automatically think, uh-oh, they're the criminal. It happens all of the time. I saw a video a few weeks ago where cops roll up, a black guy had been attacked, cops roll up, immediately go after the black dude, and the white woman starts yelling, what are y'all doing? He's the victim. All they thought was, had to be the brother. That's how they roll. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat.
Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the Coaches Luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network. I said I was going to play for y'all the news conference with Marilyn Mosby. She was hot today with the governor of Maryland. I was going to play some of that for y'all so you can see the steam that was coming out of her ears. So Governor Larry Hogan, he has been attacking her for the last several years, saying that she wasn't doing enough to end violent crime in Baltimore, even telling the Democratic Attorney General to take over cases in her jurisdiction. Well, he did it again today, and she's like, you know what? I got some words for you, Governor. Check this out.
This governor. For the past 7 years, just like Donald Trump, Larry Hogan has used Baltimore City as a punching bag. He's attacked me. He's attacked all 4 mayors. He's attacked all 5 commissioners, police commissioners. And quite candidly, he's been more concerned with pointing the finger at everyone else as opposed to actually leading and delivering for a city that is the heartbeat of this state. Just as he's done in the past, today's press conference was a political stunt with no basis whatsoever to call me or my office out. I want to be clear that as state's attorney for Baltimore City, I've never said that I would not prosecute violent offenders or violent crime in the city of Baltimore. Every day, my talented prosecutors, which are being recruited by others, including the Attorney General and other counties all across the state, are committed to working with the Baltimore Police Department to ensure accountability against individuals that wreak havoc in our communities. Had the governor set aside his philosophical differences and chosen to meet or even to talk to me, I would have been happy to show him the data that he's now making contingent on my office's funding. In fact, a great deal of the information that the governor is seeking is already published on my website. We went through this same unproductive exchange and exercise 2 years ago when my office debunked the misinformation that the governor was perpetuating in our letter to the Senate President Ferguson. And now coming out of a global pandemic where the courts have literally been non-operational for a year and a half. In the past 6 months, my prosecutors are diligently working through the massive case backlogs, and yet they are still producing. To date, our data, which we publish every month on our website, since the reopening of the courts just this year, my office has had an overall 97% conviction rate. Our homicide unit, we have had 18 guilties, only 3 not guilties. That's an 86% conviction rate. Our felony division, 187 guilties, 8 not guilties. That's a 96% felony conviction rate. Our gun violence enforcement division, 136 guilties, 7 not guilties, 95% conviction rate. Our narcotics unit, 375 guilties, 3 not guilties, 99% conviction rate. My attorneys, since the beginning of this year, have indicted over 123 homicides, 591 felonies. Our gun violence enforcement division, when we talk about getting guns off the streets of Baltimore, they have had 335 indictments. Our narcotics unit has had 866 indictments. I tell you this today because I stand by the work of my office. I'll provide the governor anything he desires because I know how much my prosecutors do for this city. Just this week, James Phillips was found guilty of 2 counts of assault in the first degree, 2 counts of use of a firearm in the commission of a crime of violence and associated charges. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison following his August 19th conviction. Phillips shot and struck 2 brothers on Bel Air Road outside of the deli after an altercation occurred inside the store. Just yesterday, Ward Alston, 46 years old, pled guilty to second-degree rape of a 14-year-old girl and was sentenced to 20 years, suspended over 12 years, and 5 years probation. Alston followed the teen from a train station near Mondawmin to her bus, got off at her bus stop to pull her into an alley and to rape her. My prosecutors work every single day. And for the governor to come out today and say that my prosecutors, they don't do their jobs, that they don't prosecute violent criminals, that they don't sweat blood and tears for the safety of everyone in this city is a disgraceful lie. My prosecutors take violent crime seriously, and so do I.
You got the sense that she's a little pissed with the governor?
Understatement. She is razor sharp. And what we see Hogan playing politics. There was actually a commission called the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council that was in place until 2017 when Hogan defunded it, that was intended to, serve this exact purpose, to curb crime in the city of Baltimore. So it's about performative politics. It's not about anything else but trying to knock Marilyn Mosby down. And we know that he ain't going to do that because she's strong as they come.
I heard a lot of receipts there, Lee.
Ooh, boy, was she, ooh, and that was boiling. That had been simmering for a while, and then that thing boiled over. I know Marilyn, and you don't play with her. Don't play with her. And what I loved about it is she came back. She was intense. She was passionate. But she came back with facts. She's talking about her close rates and the number of cases and all of that. I love it, And when you're dealing with the law, I'm telling you, man, let the politics go, man. Let's just deal with justice. And we know, unfortunately, too often times justice is not the leading factor in so much of this. It's racially motivated, it's politically motivated, and things like that. But go on, Sister Mosby. I appreciate your passion.
Indeed. All right, folks. So we are out of time, but here's the deal. We're going to restream her whole news conference. And so for y'all, if y'all want to see the whole deal, I mean, she was on fire. All right, folks, back to our Roland unfiltered video in just one moment.
Once upon a time, there lived a princess with really long hair who was waiting for a prince to come save her. But really, who has time for that?
Let's go. Feeling myself. I'm feeling
She ordered herself a ladder with Prime one-day delivery, and she was out of there.
I want some hood girls looking back at it and a good girl in my tax bracket.
Now, her hairdressing empire is killing it. And the prince? Well, who cares? Prime changes everything.
But I'm back at it and I'm feeling
This weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the Coaches Luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network. A new film centering on Richard Williams, the father of tennis legends Venus and Serena Williams, has come with a host of praise and criticism. King Richard shows the obstacles Williams faced as he secured lessons, training, and opportunities for his talented Black daughters in a white-dominated industry. The tennis stars were executive producers of the film, but they only did so after seeing the film. Now you've had critics, some of them Black, like Amanda Seales, some of them white, like Dr. Jess Taylor. She tweeted, "Did they seriously make a film called King Richard about the success of Serena and Venus Williams, but it's about their dad, Richard?" In response, the mayor of St. Louis, Tashara Jones, tweeted, "King Richard centers Black fatherhood, a concept that the media seems to forget even exists. Yes, Black women can be bosses and love their fathers enough to lift them up when everyone else tears them down. Hashtag Black Black girl dads matter. Bishop Talbot Swan tweeted, is a white woman seriously taking issues with a film about a strong black man raising his black daughters and being an integral part of their success? That's not the narrative you're used to, is it? By the way, Venus and Serena were producers. Why are you so pressed? Now, other stories have been written about this here, and I commented on this weekend as well. And frankly, it's trash, Omakongo. These individuals, they absolutely are trash. And what you see is this constant assault on black men. Look, I got no problem celebrating sisters. I got no problem when we talk about, again, in terms of, appreciating them. But to act as if there is a Venus and Serena without Richard Williams, you got to be stuck on stupid.
Yeah, man, it's sad. And I'm even started working on a documentary on black fathers because it's just so easy to exclude us and ignore us. And you're right, you uplift black women here all of the time, and everybody knows the track record. And we have to understand that there's room for both, right? There's room for celebrate the sisters and the brothers, whether we're talking politics, whether we're talking this, right? But people are not used to seeing black fathers in prominent roles. And to be quite honest, even with some of these stories we're talking about with Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin and the like, even when the stories are told, they only really talk about the moms. And in many of these cases, Mike Brown, the fathers are present as well. We've become very comfortable with speaking about black fathers as if they don't exist or if they've always been absent, even though the CDC has shown in its own study that black fathers, whether they're married or not, are more engaged in the lives of their children than other racial groups. And I have not seen King Richard yet. I plan to. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we take every opportunity to center black fathers because it just doesn't happen enough.
To sit here, and not all the critics are white women. Like I say, you've had some black folks as well. But it's some white women who are running their mouths, complaining about this. And frankly, Julian, they're despicable. They're despicable because, again, you cannot tell the story of Serena and Venus without Richard Williams. And the crazy part is, this is a story that they wanted told.
Hello. I mean, I have had the privilege of spending some time in the company of both young ladies. And if they chose to be executive producers, it's because they approved of the content. And I must say,
No. They approved of it after it was made. I'm trying to find the video where they literally said to Will Smith, we are going to wait until after the film is done, and if we like what we then we will attach our names as executive producers.
Precisely.
Normally people come on the front end and you don't really have control of it afterwards. They said you can't put our name on it till we see the finished product.
And they've never, ever disparaged their dad. Ever. They uplift their mother at all times. She travels with them often, but they have never disparaged their dad. They lift him up. The fact of the matter is Richard Williams had the idea to hit those courts in Inglewood, had the idea to get them practicing. Oracing was a big part of it also, but the fact is that he thought about this. He thought about it, and he drilled them almost relentlessly. These white women need to shut the you-know-what up and go home. And don't come back outside until you read some Black history, until you've looked at what happens in our communities. It is far too easy for folks to sideline Black men who have an integral role to play in the development of Black boys and girls. An integral role to play. And so, these white women can just, I'm not even going to say what they can do on your show, Roland. I have too much respect for you, but let them use their imagination. I am sick of white girls inserting themselves in Black lives, especially after you led off this segment with the story of the young men who were killed for a false accusation. The fact is that white women all too often are the death of Black men, whether it is the physical death or the metaphoric death.
Well, many people have seen this video. And again, if you want to see Richard Williams, you want to see why he mattered. When a reporter was interviewing Venus, so just watch this exchange. And what you need to also understand, the tennis community, this is why they despised Richard Williams, because that black man stood up to them and said, y'all ain't running this, I am.
Your whole ass and me gonna be in the grave. When she say something, we done told you what's happening. You know, with a little black head.
We're gonna sit here. Hold on one second. We're gonna fix the audio here. So we've got the video playing. Got the video playing here. So let me fix that audio. So I'm gonna find a better clip so you can actually see it. And again, this is Richard. This is Richard Williams in all his glory. Check this out.
No, I can get it. I know you. Very confident. I'm very confident. You say it so easily. Why? Because I believe it.
And let me tell you why. What she said it with so much confidence the first time. But if you keep going on and on,
listen, we can't keep interrupting. I mean, if you want,
you got to understand that you're dealing with an image of a 14-year-old child. And this child gonna be out there playing when your old ass and me gonna be in the grave. When she say something, we done told you what's happening. You deal with a little black head. And let her be a kid. She'll answer it with a lot of confidence. Leave that alone.
I know I can get it.
That was his whole deal. Was he was not going to let them shake their confidence. And what a lot of people also don't realize, Makongo and Julian, is that Richard Williams, there were people who were saying, put them on a junior circuit. Nope. Nope. Not going to do it. And then Venus signed with Nike. I think Venus signed with Nike. One of them signed with Nike. Then Nike thought, I think Venus signed with Nike. And Nike was sure they were going to get Serena. He like, nope, Puma. He controlled that deal, and they hated that black man. They wanted to take over and run the careers of both. He said, hell no, y'all ain't doing that. And he forced the tennis industry to deal with the racism that existed in the industry.
You know, Roland, one
absolutely.
of the things.
One of the.
Julian, hold on. I'm a Congo. You go this first time, then Julian, go.
Well, one of the beautiful things about that video with the reporter is that, you know, he did that in front of her, you know, to show her the importance of not being scared and standing up. And that was very powerful. When you talk about tackling the racism in the industry, every time we watch them, you know, when you see other white tennis players, people talk about how graceful they are, but with the Williams sisters, it was always about how strong and forceful they are. You know, he understood all of that. He plotted this even before they were born, as they said. And really, at the end of the day, when you can show your kids to be fearless. You know, one of the things I talked with a black parent, she said, you know, I have my black kids in private school because I want them to know that they can compete with white people on any level. You have to ingrain it at a young level so that when they get older, there is no fear. And are these sisters not fearless out there, owning sports teams, doing all of the stuff that they're doing right now? And their father is central to that role. And I can't wait to see this film because it highlights that. It centers black father. And that interview, it was just everything.
Okay, but Julian, I do want, people may have actually missed this part. I want y'all to see Venus's face when Richard stepped in. She immediately with her fingers like, your ass in trouble, homeboy. You in trouble. I want y'all just to watch Venus, y'all.
But if you keep going on and on,
listen, we can't keep interrupting. I mean, if you want,
you got to understand that you're dealing with an image of a 14-year-old child. And this child gonna be out there playing when your old ass and me gonna be in the grave.
Here he come. She's like, I'm just gonna sit right here.
Yeah, you know, Roland, one of the things you mentioned that Richard refused to put them on the junior circuit, and that absolutely was brilliant. I have colleagues and friends whose girls and boys have been on the junior circuit. You combine mean girl syndrome with white supremacy, with the competitiveness of the tennis world, and what ends up happening is these young girls get broken down. I mean, because I've had a colleague who talked about how people cut their racket strings put feces in the girls' shoes. These white girls want to win at any cost. And I think Richard must have thought, well, if they're going to have to go through all that, let's go through it on the main circuit with the big money. And he pumped them up with the kind of confidence that was unshakable. So they had to deal with all kind of nonsense. Remember the woman that Richard called a big old white turkey, a French Open winner, who deliberately bumped into Venus, deliberately bumped her. And he just had her back completely, totally. So did a whole lot of other folks. But he had instilled in them, you know, essentially just an infallibility so that even when they lost, and like Nikki Giovanni used to say, even my errors are correct. And so that's what that black man did for those black girls. And he should be celebrated. I can't wait to see the film either. I really do want to see it. But I want to say kudos to Richard Williams, kudos to Venus and Serena, kudos to Oracene Price. This is an amazing family, and to Isha and to Lendea, the rest of them, because that is a powerful family.
Well, bottom line is this here. You sit here, and look, a lot of people hated Tiger Woods' daddy, and guess what? Y'all, and again, this ain't no respect, this ain't no disrespect to single mothers, but they can't stand it when a black man is there with his child. And so to all y'all haters, shut the hell up. King Richard, he the king. And when you come for the king, you gonna sit here and get smacked when you come for the king. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Once upon a time, there lived a princess with really long hair who was waiting for a prince to come save her. But really, who has time for that?
Let's go. Feeling myself. I'm feeling
She ordered herself a ladder with Prime one-day delivery, and she was out of there.
I'm with some hood girls looking back at it, and a good girl in my tax bracket.
Now, her hairdressing empire is killing it. And the prince, well, who cares? Prime changes everything.
But I'm back at it, and I'm feeling
This weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the Coaches Luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network. Hashtag, we tried to tell you. That's what civil rights groups are saying to Facebook. Well, researchers conducted a study gathering the worst of the worst hate speech content on the platform, and Facebook's top leaders, whatever. Slurs and comments against minority groups, including black folks, were most prevalent. However, Facebook decided to keep a, quote, politically neutral stance and maintain its current system. The system aggressively removes posts about whites and Americans more than any other group. But why do they also keep the information from the black woman who was auditing in the civil rights audit? Joining us now is the president and CEO of Color of Change, Rashad Robinson, one of these civil rights leaders who had been meeting consistently with Facebook on this issue and so many others. This Washington Post story should be no shock at all to you, Rashad, because y'all kept saying it. And Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, Sheryl Sandberg, and the others kept giving y'all the runaround, and frankly, we're lying to y'all faces.
So for years, I mean, Roland, you and I have talked, I feel like it's deja vu. We have talked about this multiple times over the last couple of years. And you've consistently covered this and brought this up when other folks didn't. But for years, we have been exposing this to the point where Facebook even hired a firm to launch attacks on us. And we only found out about that when the New York Times exposed it. So we have been through this time and time again.
I'm going to pull in my panel real quick. This story is important, and what the work of these civil rights organizations is critically important, Makongo, because they said it. They were very clear, and Facebook kept giving them the runaround, and then finally they said, fine, we'll do a civil rights audit. But this report, which we only know because of the whistleblower, this report shows they hid the information from the black woman doing the audit.
Yep. They've been a fraud from the beginning on this issue. And you see Sheryl Sandberg talking all this stuff about, lean in and all this other type of stuff and empowerment. And they've been using their platform to empower racists and extremists and help Trump build his following. And I remember those meetings when the civil rights organizations and Rashad Robinson and others went to them and had those conversations. I remember seeing all of that. And I remember them talking about all the pleas, and they lied to their face. And so I believe that it's really time that all of us who are not doing it, because you're doing it and the rest of us are doing it, all of who have Facebook platforms, we need to continue to use it to call out the company. They're only going to get better when we make them better. And we have to remember, they're doing this about black people, but they're letting hate speech go from these supremacists and extremists towards all other groups. So where are their Latino brothers and sisters who need to step up? Where's people from the Asian community? All of this hate that's been on the rise has been fueled in part by the Facebook algorithms because they know that it drives profit. They've been exposed 10 times over, and now we have to demand that they actually make the changes that so many organizations have been demanding they make for a very long time. They can't just change their name to Meta and think it's all going to be taken care of.
Absolutely, Amisha. I mean, this is something, again, the civil rights groups, they were meeting with them, fighting with them, and all they kept getting was a runaround. And so what you had to the person that Rashad was talking about, this executive, that last name Kaplan, basically he was their conduit to the conservatives.
Absolutely. And Roland, kudos to you because you brought this up on this show. I've been on the show before when you talked about this. What we knew and what civil rights organizations and civil rights leaders have known for a very long time is that Facebook has been used to quell them. Facebook has been used to shut down a lot of their organizing potential, meanwhile allowing for those who organized the January 6th insurrection, those who have organized Boogaloo Brothers and others who have taken on white supremacist mantras throughout multiple cities across America, as well as the projection of authoritarian-esque and authoritarian regime-like language across the platform has occurred time and time again, in large part because it's extremely profitable. What they recognize, what Facebook recognizes, is that they can make money off of white supremacy. They can make money off of anti-blackness. They can make money off of pushing anti-Muslim hate rhetoric. They can make money off of it. And I like the point that was previously made. It's not just black people. They are equal opportunity haters out here on Facebook. And they're making a ton of money off of these platforms that allow for the voice of those who are intent on making America as white as possible. Those individuals are able to continue to carry on that mantra unabated across Facebook. And they are absolutely fine hiding, quelling the voices of, and basically stumping out the organizing potential of civil rights groups and groups that are just trying to fight for equity. What we see in them talking about algorithm change and them talking about, trying to limit some of the capacity of these groups, the only groups they did it for were Black Lives Matter groups, were other civil rights organizations, were civil rights leaders who were calling out what's happening in the streets across America. Those are the only individuals who ever got punished or got kicked off the platform or got their voices limited in any way. And I think that this report is illuminating to many, but not to Black America, because we knew what Facebook was doing already.
Let's go to Rashad Robinson. This is about money. It is about Facebook, again, minting money from right-wingers. That's what this is all about.
It's about that, but it's also about a business model, right? So they're trying to keep their business model in place. So at every single turn, they're trying to avoid regulation. And obviously that always goes back to profit, but it's a bit trickier, because what they're trying to do here is keep this business model that allows them to have a set of immunity that no other companies have. So tech platforms have immunity under something called Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, meaning that which was a bill that was written before these platforms were even the size that they are now. And what it allows these platforms to do is to have all this harm that happens on their platform, right? Running ads that can discriminate from people, keeping people out of job opportunities or housing opportunities. And then they can go in the courts and say that they are immune to civil rights law. And they are trying to keep that immunity in place, while there is a deep movement to actually remove certain aspects of that immunity. Immunity, whereas if a Facebook recommends that you follow certain people or recommends that you join certain groups, they shouldn't be immune to that because that's part of their product design, not part of free speech. They shouldn't be immune for paid advertisement that happens on their platform because that's about their business model. And so they are trying to avoid regulation. And as a result of trying to avoid regulation, they're willing to lie at every turn. And so Joel Kaplan, who is the director of policy and Brett Kavanaugh's best friend, did a lot of the quarterbacking for Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation and was one of the guys in the suits during the Bush-Gore recount that was banging on the doors trying to prevent all of our votes from actually being counted, is now the policy director. Him and Sheryl Sandberg went to college together and I guess famously used to date. So Sheryl multiple times has told me that Joel Kaplan's not a racist and Joel Kaplan doesn't have a race problem, even though story after story shows that when issues come down the pike about actually addressing racial justice issues, Joel Kaplan stands in the way. But at the end of the day, all of this goes back to Mark Zuckerberg. He has 60% of the shares. He is chairperson and CEO. Back in the summer of 2020, I was on a Zoom call with Vanita Gupta, who was then at the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, and Sherlyn Ifill from the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And I challenged Mark directly about Joel Kaplan. And Mark actually shot back and said that he makes the decisions, and he's the one that keeps Joel Kaplan in this place. And so for all of us, we have to recognize that until Congress steps in and removes immunity for these types of actions and actually changes the business model so that this company can no longer harm us, it's going to continue to do it. And I think the big thing, Roland, that we all have to remember is this country has done this before with big companies. The reason why our seatbelts work in our cars is not because the auto industry is benevolent. It's because there's accountability, there's regulation, there's infrastructure that oversees it. The reason why we can go into a supermarket and pick out meat and that for the most part it's safe is because there's infrastructure there and accountability and consequences when it's not. The tech companies should not have this type of immunity. Only folks that have the type of immunity that tech companies get right now are police officers, and we know how that works for Black folks.
So what are the civil rights groups going to do? Look, the story's out. We now know that they lied to the auditor, hid information from her. What are y'all going to do?
Well, the clearest thing is that we have to hold Congress accountable for regulation. You know, I really stopped meeting with Facebook sort of after these last couple of sets of lies. I mean, we are still in engagement around, at the very least, their updates on the audit. But on a day-to-day basis, our focus has to be on Congress. Self-regulated companies are unregulated companies. And we actually can't get to a place to have any conversation with Facebook if at every turn they can lie to us without consequence. And so there's going to be a set of hearings coming down in Congress. There's one with the Committee for Energy and Commerce on December 1st. It looks like there'll be another one coming down the pike on December 7th around cybersecurity, homeland security, and disinformation. Each of these hearings are looking at different pieces of legislation, some from members of the CBC, like Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who's been a real sort of leader on pushing that, a number of bills coming out of the Senate as well. We actually need the Biden-Harris administration to take real leadership here, and we actually need Congress to drive legislation. The fact of the matter is that what will happen in 2022 and 2024 will be an absolute disaster when it comes to disinformation and misinformation if the last two elections are any sort of guidance. And it's not just here in the United States. 2024 will be in a democratic election where there are basically more democracies with more people voting than ever before in the history of the world. You will have India, the United States, the UK, EU, Mexico, Ukraine, a number of countries, many of whom haven't had democracies for that long, all voting at the same time. That means these platforms right now, without regulation, get to decide what type of infrastructure they put on their platforms to deal with misinformation and disinformation. And we all know that in 2016, it was very clear that the Russians seem to know more about Black people than the people at Facebook. And so we can't trust this company to put the money and infrastructure behind it, especially when they have so often put their hands on the scale for the right wing.
Well, it is certainly something that's important. And look, the reality is here. We did a project this year with Facebook, our We Got Next series, and we appreciate doing that. It was a financial arrangement, but the bottom line is here. We hold folks accountable, whether we partner with them or not. And so the content we produced was great, but they have got to do right by Black people. And that story also showed the usage of African Americans on Facebook went down.
Yep. It ought to keep going down.
Yep. Rashad, we appreciate it, man. Thanks. Keep up the good work. Julianne, you want to make a comment? Go ahead.
Absolutely. I wonder what would happen if we just all decided we would boycott Facebook. I've been on there forever, but I'm seriously considering getting off because basically this is about the triumph of global capitalism. And we understand that global capitalism is really about extracting surplus value for the glory of people who are capitalists. I've discussed it with Sheryl Sandberg. She basically puts herself out there as a feminist. She's not a feminist. She's a global predatory capitalist who exploits people for her own good. So again, I think I would ask all of us to just think about whether or not we need to get off Facebook.
Well, that is a question that we'll, see what the civil rights organizations, what's going to happen next. We'll hear what the others have to say as well. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Betty is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now she's free to become Bear Hug Betty. Settle in, kids. You'll be there a while. Ooh, where you going?
This weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the coaches luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Closing arguments today in the Ahmaud Arbery case, folks. And racism was just up front as the attorneys, as the white attorneys for the three white men on trial for killing Arbery, for lynching him, just said some of the most heinous, despicable things in an effort to get the jury to agree with them, to find them not guilty. Listen, just listen to this.
Travis is thinking about Ahmaud Arbery. He's thinking about what
must be in his mind in order for himself to try to figure some things out. Travis knows that he caught Ahmaud going into the house. He knows that. And so Ahmaud should know that Travis knows that. He knows that Ahmaud has been down on the dock, and that Ahmaud should know he's been down on the dock, that he's been on someone else's property. He's got to know that by now, Travis is thinking. He knows it's not his home or his house under construction. He knows that he's been caught sneaking around in the bushes. Travis is the one that caught him. He knows that there's been a confrontation about that. He knows, he believes Mr. Arbery's got to be, this guy, this man has to understand that these things have taken place, that he had headlights on him, that somebody was trying to talk to him about why he was out after dark in front of this house and he didn't respond. If I say to one of you, hey, how are you doing? And you just look at me and you walk away, you know you've looked at me and walked away. You know that.
Turning Ahmaud Arbery into a victim after the choices that he made does not reflect the reality of what brought Ahmaud Arbery to Satilla Shores in his khaki shorts with no socks to cover his long, dirty toenails.
Toenails. She actually said his dirty toenails. My panel, Dr. Julian Malvo, Dean, College of Ethnic Studies, California State University, Los Angeles, Amisha Cross, political analyst, Democratic strategist, Dr. Omakongo Dibinga, professorial lecturer, School of International Service, American University. Amisha, I want to start with you. It is, to blame Ahmaud for him being murdered, for him being lynched, when the homeowner who owned that home testified nothing was stolen. When these three racists testified that, yeah, they didn't see him take anything. They made all kinds of assumptions. But for her to stand there and his dirty toenails, that is beyond despicable.
Whew, you're right. This defense got desperate a long time ago. The state put a very strong case against them in their closing arguments earlier today and outlined just why this would never fly as not only any form of self-defense, but also not even any form of real citizen's arrest. So what we see here is a woman who did what white supremacists do best. She leaned back on white fear. She leaned back on the fact that there are several people across multiple states, several white people across multiple states, who do not want black people in their neighborhoods, who are, if something goes missing or if something goes wrong or they fear that their community has changed in any type of way, that automatically there's a black person to blame. She fell on all of that, even though there is no evidence to present any amount of guilt for Ahmaud Arbery at all. We hear about dirty toenails in a case where the people who she's trying to protect are murderers who literally attacked a young man in broad open daylight who had no weapon, who was in retreat, who did not know them from Adam, who had every right to run along the side of the street anywhere in America he chooses to run. It was just really frustrating to watch, especially in the closing argument. This is the moment in which you're supposed to make the best case you can for the last thoughts of the jury before they go back and they make their decision. I think that because of the desperation that this defense feels at this point, they're leaning back on the one thing they know and that we've seen from some of the residents from Satilla Shores who have sat on the witness stand at this point. There are some innate racist thoughts within these individuals. And I think that because this is a jury of the McMichael's peers, be mindful, this is a jury of the McMichael's peers. This is not a jury of Ahmaud Arbery's peers. There happens to be an idea that if she can at least place one seed of fear of just a black man being there, being in a neighborhood that she doesn't believe that he should have been a part of at all, then that's enough for them to either lessen the sentence or not convict at all.
Julian, Prosecutor Linda Dunikowski really laid it out and made it very plain for the jury in her closing arguments. Listen.
So what are you going to hear? I don't know what they're going to say. They're good. They're good defense attorneys. They're going to get up here, and I'm the state is so worried that they're going to make it seem so reasonable, that everything that Travis did and Greg did is just so reasonable. I'm just going to ask you, use your common sense and put your thinking caps on. But this is what I anticipate, what we anticipate they're going to say. The victim started it, or you're going to hear that he was the aggressor, okay, because he was running towards Travis McMichael, but he was running away from Mr. Bryan, who'd already tried to hit him with the pickup truck. And Greg McMichael said it. He was trapped like a rat. He knew there was nowhere else to go. You know? Or they're going to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, this is really about the front of the pickup truck. Forget everything else. It was all about the front of the pickup truck. And they're going to try and make it seem like, well, he attacked Travis McMichael. He very well might have. We can't see. What we know is his hand was like this, right? Doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because they weren't committing a citizen's arrest. They weren't in fear, real fear, of imminent danger from Mr. Arbery. They were committing the 4 felonies. That's what they were doing. You're going to hear, we weren't committing felonies, we were doing a citizen's arrest, we weren't trying to provoke him into defending himself. You're probably going to hear this. Yes, we pointed a shotgun at him to get him to comply with our orders. Not sure why anyone should comply with their orders, to stop and talk to us, but there was no reason for him to defend himself against us, because this was a citizen's arrest. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the bottom line. As I said in opening, I'm going to say it to you again. This was an attack on Ahmaud Arbery. They committed the crimes. They committed the 4 felonies. They attacked him. They shot and killed him. They can't claim self-defense under the law because they were the initial unjustified aggressors and they started this. And they were committing the felonies against Ahmaud Arbery. They have to somehow justify their actions by claiming citizen's arrest. I'm going to remind you once again, evidence from the witness stand, they never, ever said on February 23rd, 2020, that they were doing a citizen's arrest or trying to arrest him. It was all, we wanted to stop, we wanted to question him about what he was doing because he must have committed a crime that day, and we were going to hold him so the police could go back and figure out what crime it was that he must have committed because he was running down the street.
Julianne, she nailed it.
She did. She did a really good job of laying it out. She called them on them using the race card every chance they could get. I mean, I'm still outraged when one of them got up and said, how many pastors do they have? Well, the answer is as many as you want to have. I mean, what they underestimate is the connection in the Black community. But even more than that, she was extraordinarily thorough. She put it out there. She used their words against them. And they seemed, their defense attorney was silly. How did she know his toenails were dirty? Was she up on them? Did she go to the autopsy? Come on. What these people are doing is pandering to every racist stereotype that exists. And they're doing it because this is a climate in which we live. I mean, it's hard to watch the news. It's hard to basically inculcate the space we're in. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she was crying about this, crying because she has young male sons, as I have young male nephews and godsons, who it's like this could happen to anybody. And years ago, Richard Wright talked about the way the Black community is connected so that a lynching, he said, in one city had reverberations everywhere. And that's what we're seeing again. The Black community is outraged, is stunned, is hurt, but we have been reminded yet again that white supremacy is the law of the land.
Omakongo.
I gotta say, Roland, you know, you send the prep articles, you know, for us, you know, and everything what we're going to talk about. I see this stuff trending on Twitter, and you know, but this is actually the first time I actually heard the part about the toenails. I hearing it, and it hit me dead in my tracks, man. You got the parents sitting there watching this trial, watching their son be dehumanized every day, and then you go that low. So we understand the whole thing about have you no shame. We know that have no shame. But the fact of the matter is, when all else fails, lean on white supremacy, lean on white hatred towards black people, lean on white dehumanization. This is really tragic. And to be quite honest, in any other situation, when you remove whiteness from it, we would all say this is a slam dunk case. How could somebody do this? We have to remember that this case, what happened to Arbery, is the reason why they got rid of the citizens arrest laws in Georgia, which are also rooted in slavery, which are also rooted in the times where we didn't have a police force and these guys were deputized to go and get people who were freed. And so this is rooted in slavery. And so we're coming up to a lynching in 2021 and they're using the same tactics. And if they get over with this one, this is 10 times worse than the Rittenhouse case. And we all know the reasons why, because this is going to give people a reason to believe that they can go out and do this type of act, do this type of ignorance, and get away with it. But just those comments, it's a travesty and it's just completely disrespectful to that family and to our community, just going off of Richard Wright's quote that Dr. Malvo just shared. We all felt that.
Video in just one moment.
Once upon a time, there lived a princess with really long hair who was waiting for a prince to come save her. But really, who has time for that?
Let's go. Feeling myself. I'm feeling
She ordered herself a ladder with Prime one-day delivery, and she was out of there.
I want some hood girls looking back at it and a good girl in my tax bracket.
Now, her hairdressing empire is killing it. And the prince? Well, who cares? Prime changed everything.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punching!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared. You dig? Folks, the Justice Department, they've released a new video showing the actions of those moral degenerates who tried to storm the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Yes, I call them white domestic terrorists. And you had some black folks and others thrown in there, but they were largely white folks who wanted to overthrow the Capitol to stop them from certifying the election for now President Joe Biden. They did so at the behest of that thug, Donald Trump. Watch this. If you want to understand, like now, I've had all these fools on my Twitter timeline in the past 24 hours talking about, oh, it was just, they were taking selfies on that day and they was just the only person, who got murdered was Ashley, Babbitt. No, she was a thug who tried to storm a barricaded building. So if you want to understand all these people and how they're now they're claiming false flags, check these fools out. Watch this video. Close this door in the U.S. Capitol, but you see these fools on the other side trying to use chairs and trash cans to keep the door open. Oh, you see them attack a police officer with a trash can? You see that? This is actually what happened. The video was just released. You see how many of them, wearing gear. And so I had a bunch of these old thugs on my Twitter timeline talking about how, they were peacefully escorted into the Capitol. They were allowed in, no problem, by the police. Really? That's what we're seeing right here? That's what we're seeing right here. This shows you the thugs, the terrorists that Donald Trump unleashed on the United States Capitol on January 6th, and for every single person on Mokongo who continues to try to make excuses for these shameful thugs, shame on them.
Yeah, definitely my first time seeing that one. And it speaks more to the point of why Alex Jones was subpoenaed along with some others today, because they talked about the January 6th commission. They have the receipts, man. They talked about all of the stuff Alex Jones said, what he said while he was there, where to go, and the like. This was all orchestrated. And not only were these guys in there committing acts of terrorism, they thought that Trump was going to be with them because he said, I'm going to be there with you, and then went back to his little bunker to watch all of this go down. One of the challenges that I have a problem with is that we are not seeing cameras in these federal trials of these guys, because they look all big and bad when they're down there at the Capitol, but when they get in front of these federal judges, they are whimpering, apologizing, and the like. They all need to be put in jail. They all need to be, and on top of that, they were cowards. You're going to push a woman through that window and not go in there, on some man stuff, and you're supposed to be all big and bad. These are like terroristic cowards, man, and they all need to be incarcerated for the maximum length of time. And speaking of time, I just feel these trials are taking way too long. I know we got the QAnon quote-unquote shaman, who got 40-plus months, and some other people, but it's been too long, Roland, and some of these guys are just walking free, chilling, they'll be in federal court, apologizing, and then they'll go on like Fox News and say, oh yeah, this is a persecution. I'm glad you're showing these videos, man, because they all need to be put on blast, and all your Twitter feed family or not family, more like foes, need to see that as well.
Bottom line here, Julian, these are thugs, and I can guarantee you, first of all, that would have never happened with black people, because when Black Lives Matter came to protest in the Capitol, they had massive security force. That's how they treated black folks. They allowed these crazy, demented, deplorable white folks to run amok.
Crazy, demented, deplorable hoodlums. And again, the flip is always, if this were black people, what would have happened? There would not have been one dead person. There would have been armies of dead people, dead black people, because we are not allowed to act out our rage, but these folks act out. And then it was not even about their rage. It was about their sense of entitlement. They wanted the orange orangutan to be president. Orange orangutan lost the election. They could not stand the fact that they lost the election, and so they decided to overturn it. Like Mokongo, I had not seen that video before, but that video is outrageous. But the entire situation is outrageous, and even more outrageous is the fact that you still have people lying. You still have that orangutan running around saying the election was stolen. No, the only thing that was stolen was his brain, and some years ago. So I look at that and I shudder, because the level of inequality, and again, as I said earlier in the program, Roland, the persistence of white supremacy, that is why Mokongo is taking so darn long for these trials to happen, because there are sympathizers. They could not have done any of this stuff had the Capitol, some of the Capitol Police, some members of Congress, and other people enabled them. And those are also the people who need to go to jail.
Absolutely. There is no doubt their involvement in that.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment.
town this weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the Coaches Luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network. In Missouri, charges have been dropped against a former Missouri cop who shot a black woman in the back for allegedly stealing from a grocery store. Julia Cruz says she meant to use her taser when she shot Ashley Fountain Hall in 2019 after grocery store workers called the police about the alleged theft. After restorative justice mediation session and a $2 million payout from the city of Ladue to the victim, the assault charges were dropped. Okay, I'm Matt. The sister gets shot in the back by the cop. How do you factor in the $2 million settlement in dropping the? Just what the hell? Shoot somebody in the back. Taxpayers, y'all pay the settlement. I apologize. We're done.
It shouldn't be factored in at all. And this seems to me like a circumstance where the prosecutors may have done something different than what the victim may have wanted. I know it was a restorative justice mediation, but what I mean is that the prosecutors could have elected not to go that route. What I do think is interesting about this case, though, is the prosecutor, Wesley Bell, is a brother and is one of the well-known progressive names around the country. And his case was actually mediated by Carl Racine's office, which is out of D.C. So I'm assuming in this case, they really thought the evidence was compelling, but on its face, it is problematic. And I don't see how you allow this to happen because she claimed that she wrongfully reached for her gun rather than for her taser. But, you know, she did serious injury to this woman, obviously, because the city thought it appropriate to pay her $2 million. So I'm not sure why they didn't go forward with the charges. I'm not sure this is the appropriate case for mediation.
According to this KMOV story, Lee, it says that the dismissal stems from Hall's request following restorative justice mediation, a process where the victim and offender participates together to resolve matters. The facilitator said bail made it possible for the women to find a resolution. Okay, I'm just trying to understand. Okay, what is the resolution? I don't understand. If you shot somebody in the back, the civil resolution is completely different than, frankly, your actions.
So, you know, y'all gonna make me go to law school, man, because I'm interested as well, because on the face of it, it does look like, you know, the answer is the $2 million, right? It looks like $2 million is not hush money because it's public, but that $2 million payout made everything go away. And, you know, legally, my brother could talk about that even more, but it just doesn't seem right. It seems, again, right, like a white officer is getting the benefit of the doubt for an action that could very well have been a mistake. Let's be clear. I don't fully know enough about it, and it's hard to get in the mind of people and in terms of what they were thinking when it all transpired. But it just, again, seems that this person...
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark unfiltered video in just one moment.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless. Pick something we all like.
Okay, hold on.
What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot.
Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you. All of you.
town this weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the Coaches Luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network. Remember the story out of New York where a judge pretty much let this white guy off, rich white kid who raped 4 girls, said, he really shouldn't go to prison. Now a Maryland judge has sentenced a police officer convicted of rape to 4 years in prison, but ruled he can stay on home detention while he appeals his cases. Former officer Anthony Westerman was sentenced on Friday. In August, he was convicted of second-degree rape concerning a 2017 incident and second-degree assault for a 2019 incident. Maryland State's attorney says Westerman is unlikely to go to prison because his time on a house arrest will count toward his time served, and the appeals process will be lengthy. The judge literally said that, well, there was no psychological damage here, so no need. Matt, if people want to understand why we can't skip over those judicial races when voting, these 2 cases tell us why.
That this is a white cop who raped 2 people is the answer to why we're even discussing this. The thing that's really important to know is both of these cases were tried to the judge without a jury. And the judge actually went on record saying that this was, quote, the most traumatic incident in this poor victim's life. So how he could conclude there was no psychological injury is beyond me and is indefensible. And most of the time, judges do not allow anyone to have an appeal bond when they're accused of a violent crime or a sexual crime, at least in my experience. So to not only give him 4 years of home confinement, but to do so while he's appealing the case, to me is only because he's an officer and frankly because he's got the right complexion for that judge's decision, not because it makes any sense.
You know, this is the problem I'm always talking about, Lee, how this system gives cops so much benefit of the doubt and how they are treated totally different than everyone else.
Yeah, man, it's a big challenge, and that's why, you know, you're talking about paying attention to all of the races and making sure that people are not getting in these offices that don't share our values and all of that. Man, look, this is the reason why we got to have the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed, right? Because it deals with certain aspects like that, aspects like, you know, making sure that cops who do wrong, bad cops, can actually pay the penalty beyond this superficial legal covering that they have or whatever. And we got to make sure, look, it's, you know, I was a local elected official. I was the CEO of DeKalb County. Our police department at its peak was like 1,000 police officers. And we had some tough challenges, good officers through there, but like in anything, there's some bad apples as well. And when they're bad apples, you got to get rid of them. But the challenge is legally, it makes it difficult to get rid of the bad apples and issues like this, whatever. You got this guy and you got a judge and a law enforcement officer that both should be out of a job. Well, one definitely is out of a job, but he's not going to really pay the full penalty for it, man. It does seem like, you know, as a black man, I look at all of these stories, man, and I'm like, yeah, we can't catch a break when we should catch a break, and then we pay an over penalty when we should be given a break or we should be rendered, you know, innocent in all this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy when we see these cases.
All right, folks, back to our road mark unfiltered video in just one moment.
Are the stars out tonight?
Alexa, play our favorite song again.
Okay.
This weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the Coaches Luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, Kevin Strickland, this brother has been saying for years, 43 years, he did not commit a crime that landed him on death row there in Missouri. Republicans in that state kept fighting, trying to keep him in prison. A prosecutor reviewed the evidence and said something is amiss here. He did not commit this crime. Didn't matter. They kept fighting and fighting and fighting. He wasn't sure that one day he would get released. He wasn't sure that he would ever see freedom. Well, today, a judge granted that exoneration and said Kevin Strickland is indeed a free man. He called in and ordered him to be immediately released. Strickland was convicted in 1978 for the deaths of 21-year-old Larry Ingram, 20-year-old John Walker, and 22-year-old Sherry Black. Again, he said, never thought he would see the day that he would be free.
No, I didn't think this day was going to come. I mean, not before I got this legal team, I didn't. What I was thinking in prison today, before this happened, I was actually watching a soap opera. And it thing went across news break or whatever they call them, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing.
So that's how you learned?
That's how I learned.
You saw your own name on the screen?
The picture, yes, and then other inmates start hollering.
What is more shameful? Eric Schmidt, who was the Missouri Attorney General, a Republican, disagreed with that prosecutor and fought to keep Strickland in prison. The Republican governor of that state, Mike Parson, did the exact same thing, making it clear that he wouldn't even consider making it a priority to pardon Kevin Strickland. This is the type of thing, Lee, that is grossly offensive, where you have a prosecutor who reviewed the evidence, who said didn't do it. The courts reviewed it and how these Republicans are behaving, and Schmidt is actually running for the United States Senate in Missouri.
I don't know what this show is today, but it's heavy on my heart, brother. You know, my brother over there with the law books behind him, he's a lawyer. He's a student of the law. He practices the law. But, man, I'm a man of faith, and I just believe in the humanity of all people, man. Like, you know, when the law fails us, sometimes we're just looking for people to stand up and say, you know what, right is right, and we're going to do what's right in where people are concerned. And unfortunately, it just seems too frequently, man, that when issues of the law arise, we get the opposite, the tail end of the law. We don't get the benefit of the doubt. We don't get people taking that extra step to do what's right. And this man sat in a Missouri prison for over 40 years, and the man said he was at home watching TV and likely ended up in this place because of the lack of a adequate legal team, or just a jury that didn't care, or a prosecutor that knew that this man wasn't guilty but decided to make sure that their record was straight. And he has had to forfeit 40 plus years of his life. And here's the other thing. He's going to get some money when he leaves, but it will pale in comparison to the freedom that he lost over those years, man.
Actually, he's not going to get any money because of how Missouri is very strict when it comes to their compensation. Matt, that right there is even more shameful.
It is, and I think Pastor May was 100% right. This is a case where it's just unequivocal. We should not only take care of this brother, but we should do everything possible to try to, remunerate him for the loss of his life. The reason Missouri's law is so strict is because it only allows for compensation if you're exonerated via a DNA law, which is garbage, if you ask me, because it's obvious here that the prosecutor didn't believe the evidence substantiated the charge, and this brother lost 40 years of his life. It should be a no-brainer that he's compensated. Just to give you context, if he had been convicted in nearby Kansas or next door Kansas, he would have gotten $65,000 a year per year that he was incarcerated. So it's insane that just next door they would have compensated him to the tune of almost $2 million. But Missouri doesn't deem that appropriate under these heinous circumstances.
I mean, that right there just shows you how utterly ridiculous this is. And this is from the Washington Post story here. Go to my computer, please. Around 10 p.m., Strickland was watching television when he was stunned by a news bulletin about the triple murder. Strickland had stayed home that night and had been on the phone and playing games after eating dinner with family members. His alibi was verified by numerous relatives. And they still pinned it on him, Lee.
That's what I mean, man. It's just, it's as if he wasn't good enough to have what other people would have experienced, freedom, because of an alibi. And man, I'm just saying, man, my heart is heavy for this brother, but it's also happy, it's excited because he gets the remainder of his years free. My prayer is that people will wrap their arms around him, support him financially, raising money for him to help him live out the remainder of his years with his family and loved ones as well, man. But in instances like this, like in Georgia with the Ahmaud Arbery case, when you look at this citizen's arrest, people came together, our legislators came together, even our Republican governor signed the legislation. It didn't go as far as it should have, but they made some changes. My prayer is in Missouri, the elected leadership, which it doesn't look like they will even be interested in it, would make some changes to right wrongs like what Brother Strickland has experienced.
Well, this is one of those examples right here, Matt, where I would hope black folks and others, if you want a reason in Missouri to vote, then you make sure Kevin Schmidt does not become the United States Senator because of what he did here. And then you have that trifling governor who said he would not make it a priority for Kevin Strickland, but he quickly pardoned the white couple who were charged and pulled their guns out on the Black Lives Matter protesters in St. Louis.
It's all about politics too, and that's the worst part. These DAs and other people who are charged with making sure that justice is sought and justice is done, a lot of times don't want to do the just thing because they don't want to lose votes or they don't want to lose political capital. That's the only reason Schmidt and the governor are out against this. If the prosecutor themselves moves to have him exonerated because the evidence doesn't substantiate the charge, the fact that you're carrying the mantle for a conviction shows you have ulterior motives. And those ulterior motives are keeping a black man behind bars and keeping the narrative that this scary black man must have committed this crime that everyone else knows he didn't commit. It's pretty simple.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
this weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the Coaches Luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network.
Verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. I'm going to ask that whoever just made an outburst be removed from the court, please. As this court has indicated, I ask that there be no outbursts in the court, and I expect as much from the gallery. Please respect the court's desire for this as we move forward. If you feel like you need to make a comment or otherwise demonstrate with respect to the verdict, I do ask that you step out of the courtroom now. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Dated this 24th day of November, 2021, signed by the foreperson. Have a seat. As to Gregory McMichael. In the Superior Court of Glenn County, the state of Georgia versus Greg McMichael, case number CR20000433. Jury verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, not guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. This 24th day of November, 2021, signed by the foreperson. As to William R. Bryan. In the Superior Court of Glenn County, state of Georgia versus William R. Bryan, case number CR20000433. Jury verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, not guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant William R. Bryan not guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant William R. Bryan guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant William R. Bryan guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant William R. Bryan guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant William R. Bryan not guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant William R. Bryan guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant William R. Bryan guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant William R. Bryan guilty. Signed this 24th day of November by the foreperson. Go ahead and have a seat. Court having read the verdicts and accepted the verdicts, anything from the state?
No, Your Honor, nothing from the state.
Anything from the defense?
We ask the jury be polled, Your Honor.
All defendants ask the jury be polled? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask each of you individually a set of 2 questions with respect to the verdicts that I have just read. If you could please respond when you hear your juror number. Juror number 1, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, sir.
Juror number 2, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, sir.
I think I can't. Okay, 2. Juror number 3, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes.
Juror number 4, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, sir.
Juror number 5, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 7, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 8, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 9, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 10, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 11, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 12, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
And juror 16, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, sir.
The jury has been polled. Anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
From Greg McMichael?
No, Your Honor.
From Mr. Bryan?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, what that means with the court having accepted your verdict is that your role in this case is now at an end. What we're going to do today is I'm going to have all of you, the panel and the 3 alternates, go ahead and retire into the jury room. I'm going to address a couple matters logistically with you in the jury room once we get done here. But before we do that, and before I excuse you, I do want to thank you publicly for your service here in Glenn County. It has been a long trial, and I appreciate the fact that you have been attentive. You've listened to the evidence, and that is what we ask in this court. It's a very simple ask in a very complex way, so it's appreciated. When we all got together, I say we all got together, when we got together at different times, I said that I was going to thank you a number of times and how I was going to tell you I do truly appreciate your time here. Hopefully you understand why I said that when we started. I do also hope that you got a little bit of an insight into what goes on in a trial and maybe understand a little bit more of how important it is for members of our community to come down and be part of this process and serve as jurors in this community. So again, thank you for that service. And I'll come address you all in just a moment. You're excused. All right, for the jury. All right, it is this court's usual practice with regard to sentencing to go ahead and give everybody some time to put together what they need to put together for a full sentencing hearing. I'm going to have to look at the schedule and see how that works with my schedule up in Chatham County and the schedule here in Glenn County. I'll get back to everybody about some dates and see what works with respect to dates. That should give everybody an opportunity to put together whatever evidence may be shown in aggravation from the state or mitigation from the defense. Hopefully we'll get to that in the next couple of weeks. Again, I'll make sure council knows what those dates are. That addresses the open matter then before the court. Anything from the state before we adjourn?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
From Travis McMichael?
No, Your Honor.
From Greg McMichael?
No, Your Honor.
And from Mr. Bryan?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the defendants then are ordered to remain in the custody of the sheriff, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? I remember the story about the white cops who beat up a fellow brother in blue who was undercover. Well, here's an update on one of the cops involved. Former St. Louis officer Dustin Boone received a light sentence for beating and permanently injuring a black undercover cop in 2017 at a racial justice protest. He will only serve 1 year and 1 day. That is way less than what the victim, Luther Hall, and prosecutors suggested. Boone's lawyers say he did not participate in the initial beatings. Now, according to court documents, Boone has a history of abusing suspects. Hall received a $5 million settlement from the police department as a result of this beating. Matt, this is, I mean, here again, people want to see black cop, white cop. When it comes to the cop, operative words there are black and white.
That's exactly right. And, you know, frankly, I don't understand how this isn't a scenario where the officer gets heavier punishment. What's never made sense to me is if we imbue officers with all the ability to go out and enforce the law, then when they commit acts that are violative of the law, it stands to reason they should be held to an even higher standard. So to get a year in jail for brutally beating an undercover cop at a protest is just absurd. It's inexcusable, and there's no way to defend it beyond exactly what you said, Roland. White cop, black cop being the victim. Outside of that, it doesn't make any sense, and it's not anything you can, really defend in any way.
I have always maintained, Lee, that there should be a higher standard for cops. And again, but this system, what it does, it always treats them with kid gloves, and no, we don't want to hurt their feelings when we see the sort of heinous actions they are involved in.
Yeah, man, and other law enforcement officers ought to stand with you in that sentiment, because the bad apples give the good apples a bad name, right? We lump them so often, they get lumped in the same bunch. And so, I would just encourage law enforcement officers, particularly those who look the same way that all three of us do, would stand up and say, look, it's time to go hard. Throw the book at these folk who abuse the law, who are charged with enforcing the law and protecting people. When they abuse the law, when they break the law, like, yeah, we need to look at these laws and statutes around the country and make the penalty even higher to prove a point. I'll say this, as elected officials, when various prosecutors go after elected officials that that may have done what they've been accused of, they like to throw the book at them, right? Because they want to set an example, especially for Black elected officials. They want to set an example that others can see and will not do the same thing. I think they should do the same thing.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark unfiltered video in just one moment.
Once upon a time, there lived a princess with really long hair who was waiting for a prince to come save her. But really, who has time for that?
Let's go. Feeling myself. I'm feeling
She ordered herself a ladder with Prime one-day delivery, and she was out of there.
I want some hood girls looking back at it and a good girl in my tax bracket.
Now, her hairdressing empire is killing it. And the prince? Well, who cares? Prime changes everything.
But I'm back at it and I'm feeling
this weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the Coaches Luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network.